We need assets to move this airline forward, and right now, you're acting like a liability." These words would haunt Mary, a young air hostess in a small airline just about to make it big. Mary's life takes a twisted turn when she helps a nervous passenger during severe turbulence. Little does she know that her helping hand would cost her more than she imagined. Hi everyone, welcome to Tales Unveiled. Today, I'm excited to share a new story with you. Let's get started. Mary, Aisle 4. They need water. Mary ran her fingers over her red-colored skirt and made sure her uniform was speckless. She grabbed a few bottles of water and hurried down the narrow airplane aisle. Thousands of feet above the ground, she hoped to escape the unfortunate reality that awaited her back in her small one-bedroom apartment on the city's south side. She knew, in the back of her mind, that bills were piling up back home. The insurance company didn't miss a beat when it came to taking more money. Yet when she threw on her uniform and grabbed the small carry-on, she felt like she could escape into the clouds, surrounded by people from all over the world. Mary had a fascination with airports and the people boarding planes at the oddest hours, some reuniting with their families after what felt like years, others heading to their honeymoons, and some, packed with gossip, en route to their high school reunions. If you keep daydreaming, Jason is never going to let you work in business class, her co-worker Nancy teased. Nancy was bound to get her to work in business class. People often talked about the opportunities one could get there. The rich and powerful would hand air hostesses their business cards, potentially opening doors to the world of the rich and famous. Mary, however, had her reservations. She found herself more accustomed to the economy class passengers. Despite their struggles, the cramped leg space, and limited refreshments, they always seemed happy. The tiny screens before them offered comfort and distraction. Mary made her way down the narrow economy aisle, balancing a tray of water bottles. A thin curtain separated her world from the alluring scent of expensive perfume wafting from business class. She paused for a moment, lost in thought. Was it worth sacrificing the simple joys she found in economy, the shared stories, playful children, and heartfelt conversations of couples reminiscing about their first encounters, for the exclusivity that lay just beyond that curtain? Mary was suddenly pulled out of her daydream by the sound of an elderly woman in the cramped seat across from her. "Oh, my dear, don't you have striking eyes?" Mary instantly smiled. Before she could even thank the old lady, the woman spoke up again. "Could you do me a favor, honey?" Mary knew that if her boss, Kevin, saw her lingering over a passenger for too long with nothing to do, he would get angry. She could lose her ticket to business class, and her bills would remain unpaid. Yet, when she stared into the older woman's eyes, she couldn't simply say no. She thought about the way her mother had raised her, teaching her to never shy away from helping others. Without another thought, she walked over to the old woman and spoke gently. "Of course. What can I do for you?" "Well, I know this is a lot to ask of you, but could you please check up on my son? He's just beyond the curtain, a few seats away in business." Mary instantly nodded. She asked for his seat number, and once she had it, made her way quietly to the business class section. Just as she reached the seat, she turned to the middle-aged man. He seemed to be breathing heavily, his eyes darting around the aircraft. As soon as he saw her, he began speaking in a rushed tone, his words tripping over each other. "Oh, thank God. I've been calling for someone to help me out for a while now." Mary replied right away. "I'm so sorry. I came as fast as I could. Your mother asked me to check up on you." The man continued, a sense of anxiety in his voice. "Listen, I tried to get us seats together, but everything was booked solid. The airline wouldn't even let me upgrade her last minute, and they said we couldn't swap seats because of their strict policy. My mother is terrified of flying, and I'm worried sick about her back there alone. She has this locket. It was her sister's, and it always calms her down. Would you mind taking it to her? I know it's a lot to ask, but I'd be incredibly grateful. Just as Mary reached forward to take the necklace from the man, her eyes locked with her furious boss, Kevin. He was already storming over to her. She felt her heart skip a beat as Kevin's words attacked her from a few feet away. Mary, it seems you've forgotten that you must remain in the economy section. You're acting completely unprofessionally and are far too eager to get things you haven't earned. Mary held back her tears. She knew that when it came to her stubborn boss, there was no way he would understand that she wanted nothing to do with business class. She simply wanted to help an old woman who had been separated from her son. Kevin gestured towards Mary in anger, but before a single word could leave his lips, an announcement took over the entire aircraft. Mary grabbed onto the small curtain next to her. Kevin grabbed the seat near him as the co-pilot's voice rang in their ears. He had asked everyone to remain in their seats. They were going to experience turbulence soon. Kevin went on at Mary as soon as the announcement was over. If you wish to save your future at this company, you better head to the back of the plane and stay there until the end of the flight. I've shifted you to deal with sorting the rubbish and sorting the supplies since you have proven you are not worthy of dealing with the passengers professionally at the moment. Mary had a choice to make. She could either listen to her boss and forget about the old lady and her son, or stop herself from shying away from a good deed and deal with the consequences later. She turned to Kevin, her voice trembling slightly. I understand your disappointment, Kevin, and I accept the consequences, Mary said, her voice steadier now. But before I go, there's something I need to do. Kevin raised his eyebrow as he watched Mary hurry down the aisle with a silver pendant hanging between her fingers. This enraged him. He had made up his mind. He was going to fire her as soon as they landed. Mary was out of breath. The plane was undergoing turbulence, and she instantly caught sight of the old woman clutching her chest with a look of sheer panic. She gripped the seat in front of her and squeezed her eyes shut. Mary struggled to maintain her balance as the plane moved. She quickly got down on her knees and lowered her voice as she reached for the old woman's hand and spoke. Mom, your son thought that this would help you with the anxiety. The woman opened her eyes, and Mary carefully placed the locket in her palms. She stared down at the piece of jewelry, and her face lit up. The last hour of the flight was one of the best experiences Mary could have ever asked for. Chatting with the old woman, she learned about the pendant's history, how it was a cherished item from her childhood that brought comfort during storms. Sharing stories back and forth, Mary realized that even amidst the plane's turbulence and her looming job trouble, she found a sense of calm in the woman's kind and genuine conversation. Mary already knew that she would have to go home and give up her uniform. What she did not know was that some good deeds never go unnoticed. It was when the plane landed that her entire life shifted, but not in the way that she had thought it would. As the other passengers shuffled towards the exit, Mary was greeted by the old woman and her son, their faces beaming with gratitude. Mary simply smiled in return. My mother always taught me to never turn away from someone in need, Mary said, her voice filled with a quiet strength. A knowing glance passed between the woman and her son. He then turned to Mary, his brow furrowed with concern. I couldn't help but overhear your boss mentioning letting you go. Mary's heart sank as she nodded. To her surprise, the old woman giggled, placing her hand gently on Mary's forearm. Mary instantly noticed the sweet smile on the woman's face as she spoke. "Well, Mary," the old woman began, a twinkle in her eye, "my husband and I were recently discussing who might join us on our new private jet. It's much smoother than these commercial flights. Wouldn't you agree?" She winked at Mary, who couldn't help but chuckle at the memory of the recent turbulence. "And since it seems you have some unexpected free time now, we were wondering if you'd like to work for us. I have a feeling we have many more stories to share." Mary felt an overwhelming sense of relief and joy, like a child waking up on Christmas morning. But this time, the gift was even better. A job where she could be herself, help others without fear, and not constantly look over her shoulder. She said yes within a heartbeat, and she never had to deal with another angry boss. There were still ups and downs in her life, but this time she had people to share them with. The old woman, Elsie, had made sure to tell her husband about how much Mary loved to meet new people. After every flight, she had a day or two to go around the city and talk to all sorts of people. She had escaped her fear of only feeling at peace thousands of feet in the air. Instead, she had started to love both being on the ground and in the sky. Mary's mother had always been right. Kindness was like a seed. You never knew what it might grow into. It may not always be in the way you expect, but even small acts of kindness can blossom into something beautiful. Mary had learned that the good you put out into the world has a funny way of finding its way back to you. Loved this story? Tap that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Let us know how this story made you feel with a single word in the comments. While you're at it, check out the video currently on your screen. See you next time.